Hello, everyone, and welcome to a brand new episode of Say Again with me, Amrita Tripathi. I'm so happy to bring you today a conversation with Colin Crowell, a public policy expert. He's the global managing director of the Blue Owl Group, an international tech policy consultant, and host of the Winging It podcast. Maybe my favorite avatar of yours, Colin. Thanks so much for joining us from Washington and for taking the time out.
It's a delight to be with you, Amrita.
But to kick off, I'd love to dive straight in by asking you to, help us make sense of some headlines, because one of the buzziest, pieces of news in this sort of tech Gen AI space right now is regulations, is what's coming down the pipeline, and it's not necessarily something everyone's privy to. You have, of course, like you have a ringside view to a lot of what's going on. So a couple of the headlines, which I will, add in post. One is the Indian finance minister saying recently in Milan that AI regulation needs global cooperation, not isolated moves. And I'm going to just juxtapose that with what we're seeing out of the US. Bloomberg saying that tech and AI company chiefs are urging senators to tone down regulations. Fortune saying Sam Altman urging lawmakers against regulations that could slow down the US in an AI race against China. Right now, when you look at that, from the point of view of sort of the rest of the world, I mean, the non-techies really, how do we make sense of some of the sounds that are coming out? Because it seems like a new wave in the kind of conversations we've been seeing.
No, certainly. And I think if you were to go back in a time capsule to, a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years ago, you had the so-called tech titans from Silicon Valley showing up in Washington and sitting around a table with senators, urging them to please put prophylactic guardrails in place for AI because the technology might be so dangerous that it could lead to a great calamity.
Yeah.
And there were some at that time, you may recall, urging a pause in AI development and seeking a pause so that guardrails and safeguards could be put in place before further development of AI tools and services were moved forward. So it's a 180 from that era. When you see Sam Altman and others saying, actually, it's the opposite. We think the United States should put its foot on the gas pedal and accelerate development because we're in a geopolitical race against China in particular for supremacy in AI. And that's a very different tune from a year and a half ago. And I think what you see there in the news from the Indian finance minister saying there should be global coordination, I think that's the kind of thing that probably will come over time because there are disparate approaches to AI governance occurring right now. So the European Union has passed the EU AI Act, and that's a risk-based approach to governance. It's in the process of being implemented right now in Europe. But what the Europeans may consider to be risky is probably a broader set of conditions and outcomes than, for example, in the United States, where it would be more open to experimentation and basically asking for forgiveness later rather than permission first. And then you juxtapose the European approach and the American approach, of course, with China's approach, which is a very state-directed approach to AI governance and AI development. So that coordination, particularly for entities that might want to serve multiple markets and multiple geographies will be interesting. And of course, this is the kind of thing that often needs multilateral engagement. But I don't see that occurring soon.
And is it the kind of thing which, when push comes to shove, like, for example, we saw that tech companies had to kind of, when the sort of GDPR legislation came through in Europe kind of was quite, I think, pleased and proud to take that kind of vanguard position and say we care about privacy. And so everyone has to fall into place.